We are following more breaking news in Texas, where a member of the popular rap group Migos has been shot and killed.
Police say 28-year-old rapper named Takeoff died in the shooting at a bowling alley early this morning. CBS News.
A jeweler is coming forward with new surveillance video from the night Takeoff died. He tells 11 Alive Takeoff, Quavo, and their entourage stopped by his store just hours before that shooting.
The medical examiner is saying today Takeoff was shot 3 times, in the head, torso, and the arm.
And now we are hearing from Houstonians who were...
On November 1st, 2022, at approximately 2:35 in the morning, Takeoff was shot and killed outside of a bowling alley in Houston, Texas. With him that night was his uncle and partner in music, Quavo, who witnessed the entire thing but has yet to openly speak about the situation, and rightfully so. The incident happened after an argument broke out over a game of dice that involved the Migos and affiliates of mob ties. In the video above, a man who is believed to be one of the shooters that night is seen gripping his gun moments before Takeoff's death. But the most disturbing part of this story comes from an eyewitness who stated Takeoff was minding his own business and hadn't even said a word while all this was happening. Unfortunately, he was the only person to suffer fatal wounds that night. Looking back at social media posts from that day, we now have a better understanding to how this tragedy happened.
Yeah.
On October 31st, Quavo and Takeoff are in Houston, Texas, still celebrating the success of their first album as a duo, only built for Infinity Links, along with their single Messy, which dropped that same day. This is after recently announcing that the Migos was now just the two of them and parting ways with the third member, Offset, which is why he wasn't present as well. Surveillance footage shows their first stop in Houston was to the popular hip-hop jeweler, Johnny Dang. They dropped off some jewelry to be cleaned and then browsed the store for a few new pieces before leaving. Shortly after, photos and videos were uploaded showing the duo located in the 5th Ward of Houston and appearing to be with the affiliates of the reputable group known as Mob Ties.
Yeah, we on the 5th. Yeah, the 5th Ward.
According to Google, Mob Ties is a streetwear brand founded by Jay Prince Jr., son of the hip-hop mogul James Prince, who started Rap-A-Lot Records. The group is known for not only running the hip-hop scene in Houston, but having connections with just about every artist in the game. It's not unusual for the Migos to be seen checking in with Mob Ties, as Quavo has even shouted them out in songs before, but less than 12 hours later, this would prove to be a fatal mistake. Several photos were then uploaded showing the initial link-up, followed by a video that showed Quavo sitting in the passenger seat next to a gun. As the video plays, the person recording jokes about the gun and says there's a little bit of straightening going on, a phrase that essentially means if there's any problems, the firearm will handle them.
Don't think we're playing, man. Hey, man, we got a little bit of straightening going on.
Shortly after, footage shows Quavo and others driving to a private birthday party that was being hosted by Jay Prince Jr. Although they were headed to the same party, as you can see, Takeoff is not present in the car. It's possible he took his own ride or went with another group of people, or it could be the fact that Takeoff was known to be more introverted and unproblematic, so he didn't want to ride in a car with a loaded gun that was exposed. Regardless, we know that they would reunite around 11 p.m. at 810 Billiards and Bowling, a bowling alley downtown where they enjoyed themselves for about 2 hours. At 1 a.m., the private party ended. However, around 50 or so people stuck around afterward to hang out. Around 2 a.m., pictures and images were uploaded on various accounts that showed what looked like a game of dice being played in the back of the lounge. With money scattered and people hovering over the table, everything seemed to be going well, or so it looked. According to some eyewitnesses, an argument had started at some point, probably over money being won. It's apparent there was now tension between Quavo and his entourage versus the others associated with Mob Ties. At 2:30 a.m., the group of people then headed outside of the venue, where things appeared to escalate even more. In a video, someone can be heard saying something about being disrespected. Then Quavo says, "Let's get out of here before I hurt somebody," attempting to take the high road by leaving the scene before things really got bad, but unfortunately, it was already too late. Right at 2:35 a.m., as the rapper turned to walk away, a gunshot was let off, followed by a few more as the crowd scattered the scene. 3 people were injured in the event, but only one was pronounced dead, and that was 28-year-old rapper Takeoff. A woman who was on the scene would later post to Twitter stating, "I watched someone who was out of the mix the whole time get killed on accident. They wasn't arguing over a game of dice, and Takeoff wasn't even shooting with them. He was the quietest in the room and didn't know what was even going on. He just stood up and got shot out of nowhere. According to her, Quavo was upset about something small, and that's what may have started the altercation. She also claimed the initial shots fired came from somebody in Quavo and Takeoff's entourage, and that he was hit on accident in friendly fire before the others even started shooting back. But according to police, things went like this.
A black SUV speeds off from the venue, running a red light in an attempt to get away from a party advertised by Jay Prince Jr., where Takeoff was killed.
Correct. Yeah. I gotta get me a big old bang.
Investigators obtained video surveillance from the bowling alley and other nearby businesses, along with multiple cell phone videos that captured different angles before, during, and after the shooting. In total, there were 34 people involved, but more importantly, there were 3 men Quavo was seen exchanging words with. With Quavo and Takeoff that night was a friend of theirs named Willie Bland. Willie stated he had noticed that the men arguing with Quavo were armed and potentially dangerous. As the argument escalated, Willie became nervous as he saw one of the men reaching for a gun, just as Quavo turned to walk away. Willie then lunged at one of the men and punched him, starting the altercation, and shortly after was seen firing his weapon off, to which a man named Patrick Clark returned shots, missing and hitting Takeoff in the arm, torso, and head. Clark then fled the scene on foot to a nearby House of Blues, where he was captured on a closer video before returning to the scene of the crime, still holding the semi-automatic weapon in his hand. During the shooting, he was also seen holding a wine bottle in his other hand while he fired shots. After fleeing the area, he laid the bottle of wine on the ground and never came back for it. The bottle was then collected and processed for fingerprints, which concluded it was in fact Patrick Clark, who is also known as DJ Pat in Houston and a good friend of Jay Prince Jr. He's now in custody and the main suspect in Takeoff's murder. More importantly, people were upset that this entire incident even happened while under the watch of Jay Prince Jr. and the mob ties. Typically, when rappers check into a specific person or group, it's about mutual respect as well as protection. But on this night, that wasn't the case, as an innocent person and role model lost their life. If tensions were that high, it seems obvious that at some point the person who brought these two groups together should have been the one to step in and try and de-escalate the situation. People also noted that Takeoff was actually the second person who lost his life in the protection of mob ties recently. Just a month or so before all of this, a man by the name of Duke the Jeweler was robbed and killed in a similar instance. In the video above, you can see Duke standing next to Jay Prince Jr. shooting dice with a stack of money in his hand. Moments later, he was gunned down in the parking lot by 2 unidentified men. This could be a coincidence, but it's unfortunate that these things are happening right in front of an organization as big as mob ties in Houston. Takeoff was only 28 years young and had a long career ahead of him. His unique flow and contribution to hip-hop as a whole could never be forgotten, and he will be remembered through his music.
You know, I'm chill, you know what I'm saying, laid back, but it's time to pop it, you know what I mean? I mean, time to give me my flowers, you know what I mean? I don't want them later on when I ain't here.
God damn it,
you know what I mean? I want them right now, so.
Give me flowers.